Hello Internet, this is Untold Force, and I'm going to go through a tutorial on how to get started in immersive railroading in a survival server. So we are in the Untold Destiny server. As you can see, this is the Untold Destiny Railroad Workshop. We have played quite a bit, so we've reached endgame content, and even though it's survival, we have access to pretty much everything we need through automated mining and all sorts of other stuff. So this is a very cool mod. Immersive Railroading is one of my favorite mods in Minecraft right now, and it's super fun to use. We have tracks going all over. This is the main line. Unfortunately, I don't have a super huge view distance because of the server limitations, but if I pull up Journey Map, you can see some of the tracks. The tracks are these white lines, and they go past this village. There's Dead Man's Bend. Here's the spawn area. There's the first house. We've got loops down here. We've got everything. It just keeps going and going and going. Very fun. It's a great way to get around, and you can get around very quickly through huge distances. If you're interested in playing with immersive railroading, I suggest starting out in creative mode because there's a lot to do here and it requires a lot of resources. So after you've played around with in creative mode and you have an idea on how to build the tracks and how to use the locomotives and put everything together, you might be wondering, well, how do I get started in this in survival mode? So the first thing that you will need is, of course, you need a lot of steel. So to get steel, there's plenty of ways to get steel, depending on the mod pack you're in. But you're going to need steel ingots or blocks of steel. I have lots and lots of blocks of steel because of the way I did it, and I'm not going to get into it. But if you have questions, of course, I can make another video about how I made tons and tons of steel. We can cover that in a different day. But you're going to need lots of steel for everything. Everything here requires steel. Another thing you're going to need are treated wood planks. So treated wood planks are from Immersive Engineering, and what they require is some kind of wood planks plus creosote oil. Now, creosote oil is from Immersive Engineering. Now, remember the mod names. This is Immersive Railroading. Immersive Engineering is a really handy mod to have. It makes some really beautiful machinery, and it allows you to have access to a lot of the stuff here in Immersive Railroading quite easily. Now, you can use other mods as well to get these things, but I highly recommend using, or at least having, all the Immersive Engineering stuff set up in your base. I'm going to go view the immersive engineering stuff just to give you an idea of what you need. So I have a level for immersive, so let's go down to immersive engineering. And these are some of the things, these are metal presses, these are automated engineer's workbench, but this is one of the key things that you need here. You need coke ovens. Coke ovens are going to give you creosote oil. So by putting coal in there, it'll make coal coke, and then it'll output creosote oil. And that's necessary for a whole bunch of other stuff. Arc furnace might be very useful if you get to it. That allows you to make steel very easily. So anyway, we're going to go and teleport back to our loco shop now that I've gone through a little bit of the immersive engineering requirements. All right, so now you have some treated wood planks, you've got some steel, you've got all of the other things from immersive engineering that you need, including the engineering blocks. There's heavy engineering block, light engineering block, redstone engineering block, all those things. You have access to all that stuff. So you want to start, you're going to need these machines to start out in immersive railroading. Now, this is the plate machine. This one, so there's a rail machine, which is right over here. There's the plate machine, the casting basin, which is this huge thing right here, the boiler machine, which is this, and the steam hammer, which is this thing. So when you place it down, there's a very handy thing in the game, and it's this manual, the Immersive Railroading manual. If you just right-click it on an air block, it'll tell you the link to the Immersive Railroading wiki. But if you shift right-click it, it will show you the outline of the machine that you need to build, and it'll also tell you what you need to build it. So if I right-click on the ground here, it says, I'm missing 16 heavy engineering blocks, 44 steel scaffolding, and 32 light engineering blocks. So you're going to have to go in Immersive Engineering and get those engineering blocks. So I'll go grab some of these from my inventory. And I also need some steel scaffolding. So here's some steel scaffolding. And all of these things are from Immersive Engineering. So I'm going to go place this down very simply by aiming on the ground and right-clicking. And guess what? It puts the framework for the machine. Now, this machine doesn't work. Not yet, at least. What do I need? I need a large wrench. Now, the large wrench is from Immersive Railroading, and the recipe is quite simple. It's just some steel ingots. So if I right-click on that framework with the large wrench, it turns it into a machine. Now, I'm not going to rebuild all 5 of the machines because I already have them in here, but that just gives you an idea on how to build the machine. So once you have your machine built, in this case, we're looking at the rail machine, the machine that makes all the rails. It requires an input, there's an output, and it requires energy. Okay, so I am using just flux points, which allows me to wirelessly transmit energy here, but you can use whatever you want. And the energy, let me turn on my night vision as well, so that way we can see. All right, so the energy input is always this gold block. So I'm going to just click right there, give it access to my energy network, and now you can see at the top, it is powered. So that's how I powered all 5 of the machines. You can see the steam hammer right here is powered from the top. This is the rail machine that's powered there. This boiler machine is actually powered from the side. That one doesn't line up exactly, but it's right there. And the casting basin is powered on top. You might want to be careful. Don't fall in there. It will definitely hurt you. And the plate machine is also powered on top. All right, so now you've made your 5 machines, the 5 machines that you need. What are you going to do? How are we going to first start it out? So the first thing we need to do is we need to make some rails, okay? So to make some rails, I am going to grab some steel. And you can use either steel ingots or blocks of steel. And all you have to do is go up to the top of your casting basin and toss your steel in here. The blocks of steel, of course, are going to give you more steel, molten steel, than the steel ingots. But the more you toss in there, the more full the casting basin will become. And then, once you have enough steel in there, you right-click somewhere on here, and at the top, it gives you the option of what you're going to cast. So I'm going to go back and hit escape to get to the list of everything that we can cast. The first thing we're going to do is do rail casting. So rail casting will cast the, it's not a finished rail. We have to go to the rail machine for that. So it will cast just the unfinished rail, just a giant steel beam. So the next thing you have to decide is what gauge are you going to use for your railroad. There are, of course, standard gauge. You have narrow gauge. You have Minecraft gauge, which is the mine cart sized gauge. Then there's one smaller gauge called model gauge, and that's really, really small and quite cute. And then there's also Brunel gauge, which is huge. So I'm just going to start with standard gauge. And I'm going to click single casting because I just want one rail right now. If you click repeat casting, it'll just keep casting that again and again and again. All right. So now that that's done, I'm going to right click here to get it. And I have this rail casting. If I show you, it's just a giant steel beam. All right, so I'm gonna right click on the rail machine, and you can see the rail machine is taking that steel beam and turning it into a rail. Now I have it automatically exporting, but normally you'd have to go and right click it again to get the finished rail. So to place the tracks down, you'll want to create a track blueprint. And I will just take one track blueprint because you can use it for anything. So if you right click it on air, it'll show you the different types of track patterns that you can use. So I'm just going to use a straight track pattern, and I'm going to make it, I don't know, 30 long, right? Now you get to select your rail bed here. You can choose gravel, cobblestone, bricks, whatever you want for your rail bed. And then there's also an option for a rail bed fill. The rail bed fill is if there's a block underneath it that's not filled in, what will it fill it in with? So to give you a demonstration of rail bed fill, I selected cobblestone rail bed fill here to create this bridge. So as you can see, the rail bed itself is gravel. That's a gravel pattern. And then underneath is cobblestone. Now, it doesn't make these fancy bridges. We made those. But that just gives you an idea of the track blueprint and how to do it. So I'm just going to make something really simple. A 10 block long straight track, no rail bed fill. If I right click it on the ground, or if I aim it on the ground, it'll show me a highlight of what it's going to look like. And if I right click it, it says missing 3 ties, missing 5 rails. All right. So what do I use for ties? Well, remember those treated wood planks that I talked about before? Well, we're going to need some of those. And then we're also going to need some of those rails that we finished. Now, if you notice, there's different rail segments. There's standard gauge, narrow gauge, Minecraft gauge. I've been manufacturing a whole bunch of these. So now I should be able to place it. There we go. Great. There we go. So you placed a piece of track using the track blueprint. The next thing you're going to need is you're going to need to make some sort of rolling stock. You're going to need a locomotive and some rolling stock for your railroad now that you're placing some tracks. So let's right click on the casting basin again. And instead of using rail casting, I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to choose something really simple, really straightforward. Let's go with this little switcher engine, okay? So the first thing we need, as you can see, it gives you a whole bunch of options here. You've got your bogie wheels, the bogies, the frame, the alternator, and the engine block. For more complex things, there may be more things required, and I'll get into that in a bit. But the basic thing that we always need is we need to start out with the frame. So I click the frame. As you can see, it's going to require 75 steel. So I'm going to click single casting, and it's going to start there. All right. So in the meantime, I'm going to organize things. I'm going to need my wrench, my large wrench. So I'll put that down here. And I'm also going to need a spot in my local workshop to put down the switcher. This looks like a perfect place to start. All right, so this is still working, about 2/3 done. And once it finishes, we'll place the frame down. And this is how every piece, every locomotive and every piece of rolling stock is made. So we right click and we picked up the frame for the switcher. So let's right click it on a piece of rail. And now we have just the frame. So you can tell it's a really, I love this mod because the models are fantastic, and props to all the modelers for doing it. So you might wonder, well, what do I need next? So grab your large wrench and right click on it, and it'll say missing 2 bogies and 4 bogie wheels, and it says casting, so it reminds you what you need to what machine you need to use. So I'm going to click on this, and it said I need 2 bogies. So you can actually kind of double up on that, as you just saw, and 4 bogie wheels. So 1, 2, 1, 2, and then 3, 4. Great. All right. So that's one bogey, two bogies, one wheel, two wheels, three wheels, four wheels. Awesome. Great. So now I right click. Oh, look at all the stuff I need. I need an alternator in casting. I need 5 large plates for the shell, 2 medium plates, 4 large plates, an engine block. Oh, all this stuff. Okay. Well, I am going to start out with the alternator. So let's make the alternator. And the other thing it needed was the engine block. So I'll do single casting on the engine block. All right, so I've got these things. That was easy enough, right? So click, click. Wow, that looks pretty cool. Now it says I need 5 large plates for the shell, 2 medium plates for the fuel tank, and 4 large plates for the cab. All right, so how do I get these plates? Well, that's what the plate machine is for. So if you right click on the plate machine, you'll want to make sure that the gauge is set to the correct size. So in this case, we're using standard gauge. And the plate type, we needed some large plates. So I've hooked it up that there's a chest which automatically extracts stuff and puts it in here. But you can also do it in other ways. But you need blocks of steel for this thing. So you right click with a block of steel and it will automatically make your goods. Unfortunately, they're also being automatically extracted. So let me turn off the automatic extraction so that way we can get a feel for what's happening here. So now I right click and I get a large plate. Let's do it again. Click with a block of steel, wait for the sound to finish, and right click again. I get another large plate. Now you can repeat this with your with your medium plates and small plates. There's 3 different sizes of plates. As you notice, I get 4 medium plates out of a single block of steel. I'm not going to sit here and make you watch this all day, so I'm just going to go back and grab the plates that I need. So let's right click here. So it says it needs a whole bunch of large plates. So large plate. Now I just need to make sure it's the right gauge, standard gauge. And I'm going to right click with the plates in my inventory. And we're starting to build the engine. And oh, there it goes. It's all complete. Great. That's awesome. Now I right click in here and I'm ready to go and throttle it up. Oh, nothing's happening. Well, at the bottom left, you'll see a GUI for your brake, throttle, and also a number. In this case, it's 0 buckets out of 30 buckets. And we can all guess what that is. That's fuel. So you need some fuel for this. How are we going to get fuel? Well, let me go back and I'll show you that you're going to need some sort of fuel production. In this case, I'm using Immersive Petroleum. So I have these fuel pumps, these pump jacks set up in places that I found crude oil in. So they've been pumping crude oil for a long time, and they go and transfer the crude oil over to my distillation tower. This takes crude oil in, and it exports gasoline, diesel, as well as lubricants. So I've been pumping crude oil in here, and it automatically produces those 3 things. It requires power to function, so you're going to need to have a power source. I mean, this entire mod pack is not exactly something that you'll, or these mods are not something that you'll be able to do without having first progressed through the tech trees for some of the other mods. So I've produced some diesel, and then let's get a bucket of diesel. Here we go. Here's a diesel bucket. I'll go back to the local shop. And I'll right click in our switcher that we just built. And then I'll right click again, and it shows you that you can put your bucket in here. Diesel bucket. There we go. It's now running. And you can see it's using a little bit of diesel all the time. And putting these these buckets in one by one might get a little time consuming, right? So in immersive petroleum, we have something called jerry cans. And you can fill them with diesel. And they hold 10 buckets worth, or 10,000 millibuckets. And now if I put that in here, you'll see, whoop, there we go. It's now 1/3 full in just one click. But let's say that you have an engine that is really, really thirsty. So this engine in particular, if you look at it, it can take 174 buckets of fuel. Well, that's a lot of fuel. I'm gonna shift click this one to take it down. So again, if you want to just remove an engine entirely, you will lose any fuel inside. You have to shift left click it to remove it. So that's a shift left click. Now it's in my inventory, and I'm gonna go take it over someplace that I know has a little bit of infrastructure. So this is a fluid tank that was built from immersive engineering, and if we look at it, it's filled with 512 buckets of diesel. And I have these fluid pipes pumping diesel to these fluid loaders. So if I place, let me just place this down someplace handy, maybe this track right here, just to show you. So first off, we can see it's empty, completely empty, right? So I do need to get this engine going, so we're going to grab a diesel bucket, put it over here just to get a little diesel. So it can take 174 buckets of fuel. All right. So let's move it forward just a little bit. All right. Oh, look at that number. Well, that number was going up for a second, but there we go. I just turned on our pumping, and you can see that something is going on. Oh, look at that number in the bottom. Now we've got 24 buckets, 26 buckets, 27. It's filling this up with fuel automatically from this fluid tank, and the fluid tank is being filled by another fluid tank, but that's another story. Anyway, the long and short of it is that if you want to fill up your engines with diesel or water or whatever they need, using these fluid loaders is a good way of doing it. So I'm going to remove the brakes, back it up a little bit, so I don't fill up all my diesel on this demonstration. And now we're good to go for quite some time. We've got 76.7 buckets of diesel in this loco. And we could do that for all of our locomotives to keep them filled with diesel and water by using something like this. All right, so that seems to be a pretty good rundown of the things that are important to get started with immersive railroading. I hope you enjoy the video and have fun with this mod. It's really great. Thank you very much.